Hello and welcome, our beloved viewers, to RTD's News English Edition. Tonight, for the highlights, we got a meeting with the Imams to respect the preventive measures of the COVID 19. And on the international scene, WHO calls for caution in Europe, citing India's strategy. Those were the major highlights. Welcome again to our newsroom. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, paid a vibrant tribute to the memory of the late Ali Mohammed of Kedah, former Attorney General of the Republic of Djibouti, who passed away today after a long battle with illness. We deplore all the more the disappearance of Ali Mohammed, as he was one of the greatest jurists of our country, said the head of state. His professionalism and his unwavering allegiance to uphold above all the law were the source of the deep respect he commanded from the general public. He added, he was a brilliant magistrate, but he was also esteemed for his prosperity, to remain a humble and available man, President Guelleh said, before expressing his sadness condolence to his family, his relatives and friends, as well as to his many colleagues in the Ministry of Justice. May God welcome him into his eternal paradise, the President of the Republic also implored. Preached at the head of each and important family, the late Ali Muhammad leaves behind a wife and several children, some of whom now hold important positions in the Djiboutian administration. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. As part of the citizenization of the religious body on the preventive measures recommended by health specialists to cope with the pandemic of COVID-19, the Minister of Muslim Affairs and Culture, His Excellency Mu'min Hassan Beri, held a meeting at the People's Palace on the sidelines of the closing ceremony of the Quranic competition, bringing together ulamas, imams, and preachers. He stressed the importance that the ulamas play in community awareness through religious preaching and strict compliance with the gesture barriers during collective prayers in mosques. In front of the current epidemiological context, the minister urged the imams of the mosques to emphasize the sensitization of the faithful to be extremely careful with the pandemic of the coronavirus and the strict respect of the barrier gestures. He explained that these measures, such as distancing between individuals and wearing masks, allow each person to protect themselves from the coronavirus infection. The minister asked the imams to make preaching at each prayer and during the celebration of Tarawih prayers for the application of preventive measures to limit the transmission of the virus. The ministry noted that since the beginning of this health crisis last year, the government has spared no effort to contain the spread of the virus. In this regard, the ulamas and imams have made comfortable efforts. An action plan was put in place to raise public awareness, which formed a surge of solidarity and national awareness. And to conclude, the minister wished this message to be transmitted to obtain the massive adhesion of the populations to the measures taken by the government and the respect of the hygiene protocols and the barrier justice. The Minister of Islamic Affairs, Mr. Mu'min Hassan Beri, explained in a speech that precautionary measures such as respecting social distancing between numbers of worshippers and wearing a mask allow everyone to protect themselves from infection with the coronavirus. The minister asked the imams to remind worshippers in every prayer and also during Tarawih prayers to apply preventive measures aimed at curbing the transmission of the virus. The minister noted since the beginning of the health crisis last year, the government has spared no effort to limit the spread of the virus by developing an action plan to raise the level of public awareness. He also praised the paramount role that imams played during this health crisis. At the end of his speech, the minister expressed his hope to convey his messages to the citizens to obtain significant support from the population to implement the measures taken by the government and to respect the hygiene protocols and the precautionary decisions. A meeting took place to monitor the progress of ongoing projects of the instructions of the Ministry of Economy and Finance and the Central Bank in partnership with the United Nations Development Program and the International Private Sector Development Center in Istanbul. Indeed, in the Ministry of Finance, ongoing efforts to apply international best practices in financial inclusion and private sector development. The Ministry of Finance has entered into strategic partnerships aimed at capitalizing on the Turkish experience, which is internationally recognized as a benchmark in terms of an enabling ecosystem for private sector development. Thus, follow-up has focused on the formulation of Islamic finance and microfinance tools to effectively address the problem of financial exclusion and poverty. The implementation of tools to accelerate and facilitate access to finance exchange of experiences in terms of innovation and entrepreneurial skills. Finally, the possibilities of introducing digital finance or other catalytic approaches to transform the microfinance sector for the population concerned was discussed. Moving on to the Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity began the process of implementing a program to respond to the requirements of the most needy citizens in the capital and the entire regions, including the cash transfer implementation program, This step aims to facilitate social and economic integration and remove barriers that prevent the creation of a coherent, effective, and coherent development framework for poor and vulnerable families. This program was launched by the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, in January 26, as it falls within the framework of the political vision of the President of the Republic to build a more just and solidarity society. In this regard, teams from the Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity undertook tasks in the five interior regions to pay the cash transfer for the first quarter of the year 2021 in the sub-districts. In April, the General Inspectorate of the Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training organized a special day for the environmental clubs for the benefit of children in primary school. The project includes about 10 schools for basic education where an exhibition of activities related to the environment is taking place during this day. The members of these environmental clubs consist of students and principals of their schools who present innovative ideas on how to preserve the environment. This occasion also included displaying paintings of various pictures from the various school departments that participated in this day, which shows the importance of hand washing to avoid coronavirus and encourage school children to respect measures aimed at protecting the environment by organizing educational meetings and meetings among young people. To the region of Ali Sibi as it experienced the greatest rainfall. The city of Asajog suffered yesterday Friday around noon torrential rains that has caused widespread heavy flooding resulting in damaging to water retention dam in the area of Grand Bara, which triggered heavy flooding. This year's International Labor Day coincided with a heavy downpour that showered the entire city of Ali Sibi. This made the workers of Ali Sibi region delighted and celebrated this Labor Day with a pleasant climate. As part of the EU FEMFI project on the reduction of gender disparity in the Republic of Djibouti, to further consolidate the economic empowerment of women and young girls, the Ministries of Women and Family have handed over a check for money to accompany young girls from Ubuk in the field of entrepreneurship. This initiative has a key objective to reduce the precariousness of young girls by developing their entrepreneurial spirit through training to be creative and to accompany them to set up their own project in promoting sectors and which respond to market needs. These young women and girls will be accompanied by the services of professional integration during the first 6 months. They will open an account at a bank, a way to direct them towards the formal sector, where accompanying measures will be proposed. On the same context, in order to provide access to microcredit, the MFF have developed a partnership with Salam Bank, which has signed a financing agreement with each community mutual to strengthen members' capacity to access credit and manage income-generating economic activities. Through the mutual, the bank is committed to supporting the sustainability of activities and the economic empowerment of local community members. It is in this sense that a strong delegation of the Ministry of Women and Family, led by Mr. Hamad Gaba Umar Abdul Ghadir, technical advisor of the ministry, accompanied by the international consulate, went to the region of Obokh to launch this program and other activities of economic empowerment of women and girls, such as female entrepreneurship, income-generating activities, and women. The delegation granted materials to these women to encourage them in the fishing sector, as fishing is a sector that promotes the fight against poverty and food insecurity. Women fishmongers and fish resellers are also part of the supply chain and marketing of fish products. Concerning the news around the globe, Kenya wants to close 2 refugee camps housing hundreds of thousands of refugees from war-torn countries by June 30, 2022. The announcement follows a meeting between Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Gernadi, to discuss the status of the 2 camps, which are home to 432,765 refugees and asylum seekers. Most of the people in the 2 camps are from Somalia and southern Sudan. Efforts by the Kenyan government to close the camp's area were blocked by the High Court issued a temporary order, which will be valid for 30 days, after former presidential advocate Peter Gachera filed a legal challenge to block the closure of the 2 camps. To India, as the Indian variant is worrying, and for good reason. About 10% of the occupants of a plane that arrived in Rome on Wednesday evening from India have tested positive for COVID-19. Italy has banned since Sunday the entry on its territory of people coming from the country hit by the virus, but it has not suspended flights, especially to allow Italians living in India to return to their country of origin. On the side of the WHO, the director of the European region is worried about the announced deconfinement on the old continent. Since the beginning of the vaccination campaign in January, more than 150 million doses of vaccine has been administered in this country, India, of 1.35 billion people. That was it for tonight's edition, our beloved viewers. Thank you for being with us and make sure to stick around for the French version with our beloved colleague Ferdouz. Thank you and have a wonderful night.